My mom has always been challenging to deal with, but the events surrounding my wedding and a friend's wedding this September took things to another level. I'm the oldest of 4 and the only daughter, so maybe it's no surprise I've always felt like the black sheep. Still, I hoped the excitement of my engagement and upcoming wedding would bring us closer together. Shit, was I wrong? The friend's wedding backstory. A close friend invited me to her wedding on the first weekend of September 2024. It was a last-minute wedding for them because they found a great deal on a venue on short notice. Our wedding was 2 weeks later. Since my fiancé would be away on his bachelor trip, my mom agreed to be my +1. She seemed totally on board. But the week before the wedding, things unraveled. Out of nowhere, my mom called my fiancé, not me, and told him that my grandma told her that she was too anxious to come to my wedding. Mind you, my grandma had been thrilled about my wedding when I last spoke to her. She'd been talking about it non-stop since I got engaged. So, to hear this, I was absolutely destroyed and hurt, to say the least. And the fact that my grandma didn't call me herself, leaving my mom to deliver the news, made it a million times worse. I knew I couldn't have a calm conversation with my mom about it. She has a pattern of twisting my emotions into personal attacks, and with the fact that I have BPD, I needed to protect myself. I asked my fiancé to relay that I understood but didn't want to discuss it further. Cue my mom repeatedly calling me to talk about it all week. I ignored the calls, knowing nothing productive would come of it, but told her why I couldn't bring myself to talk about it, especially if it wouldn't change anything, and I was not about to beg anyone to come to our wedding. D-Day. Then, the day before my friend's wedding, she texted me, "I'm too emotionally exhausted to go to the wedding with you." Yep, just like that. She bailed on me, just like my grandma. I was stranded with no way to attend the wedding, no car, no viable public transit options, and my fiancé was obviously going to be out of town. When I called to ask her why she was doing this, she doubled down, claiming she was upset I hadn't talked to her about grandma. This definitely didn't help the BPD abandonment issues, I'll tell you that much. I reminded her that I did explain why I couldn't talk about it and begged her to reconsider because she'd not only be ruining the wedding for me, she'd be screwing my friend out of money because she's obviously included both of us for food, drinks, capacity, etc. Trust me, I know all too well the individual costs of a wedding guest at this point. I was also scared as hell that my friend wouldn't understand and would cut me off too. I mean, how do I even explain that? Like, hi, I know I'm 32 and all, but you know how my mom was supposed to be my +1 and drive us down? Yeah. She ditched me today and I have no way of getting there. It just sounds so pathetic. Her response was, essentially, too bad. My feelings matter. When I pointed out how badly she was screwing me over and how panicked this was making me, she laughed. With managing BPD, I understand I have some intense triggers. Fear of abandonment, injustice, not being taken seriously / being laughed at, especially when I am being vulnerable, which I never am for this reason. I gave the phone to my fiancé because I knew I was about to say something I'd regret. When I handed the phone to my fiancé, hoping his calm demeanor could help, she laughed at him too. She said, "Tough shit." I got back on the phone and asked her point blank, "Are you really doing this?" She exploded, called me selfish, and hung up. When we tried calling back, she ignored us. I was furious and texted her, "Fine. You're dead to me. Send me my dress." Yeah, I know, not my best moment. Remember when I said I knew I'd say something I'd regret? I can't even explain why I did it. If I try to think about that moment, all I felt was panic. My fiancé was leaving me for 4 days. We're hardly ever away from each other, and I don't mean that to sound codependent because we're fully capable of being apart. But having him gone while I was in that much distress was sending me into a deeper panic, combined with thinking about how my friend would react, how my mom was already planning on twisting this to my brothers / the rest of my family, how horrible I felt about screwing my friend over, just everything. And being ignored when I called back to try and de-escalate the situation sent me over the edge, and I must have felt like I needed to get my own fuck you in there too. Anyways, I'm sure you can guess what happened. She then started telling people I'd uninvited her to my wedding and victimizing herself by getting whatever twisted version of the story she concocted to everyone first. Again, typical, but I tried my best to keep it out of my mind until my fiancé was back, so we could come up with a game plan together of how to handle it. I was completely emotionally broken at that point. I spent the weekend trying to distract myself by hanging out with friends and not allowing myself to think about it, but I had been invited to a friend's birthday party that night, and he's the son of my mom's best friend. When I got there, which was literally like 6 hours after we got off the phone, he asked, "So what's this I hear about you kicking your mom out of your wedding or something?" Like, she wasted not a single second lying and spreading it around. I don't even know the extent of what or whom she told at this point. The wedding and aftermath. Don't hate me for this, because I did what I knew had to be done. Unfortunately, we had planned that myself and my bridesmaids, along with my mom, her best friend, my brother's girlfriends, and hairstylists were all getting ready at my mom's house, since it was a 15-minute drive from the wedding venue. I knew everything would be totally fucked if things stayed the way they were, and I knew from past experience / just knowing my narcissistic mother that she'd never back down to try to make things right. Trust me, if I hadn't have spent tens of thousands of dollars on this wedding, I would not have caved the way I did. So with that in mind, despite everything, I caved and apologized a week later. I didn't want the drama to overshadow my wedding, so I swallowed my pride. She accepted, after a long holier-than-thou speech and her tone never changing from passive-aggressive and insincere, of course, came to the wedding. We all got ready at the house, and I acted like nothing had happened, while she acted passive-aggressive and dismissive and like she was doing everyone a huge favor despite having volunteered her house a year ago. I kept playing along, hugged her, told her I loved her, and made her drinks. I tried to keep the peace. After 2 years of dating, we got married, and I moved an hour away from Cindy. This, of course, reduced the amount of time we would spend together even more. But we would still try to get together for dinner or talk a few times a month about the things going on in our lives. We supported each other from afar. We both changed jobs, received promotions, your basic life events. We celebrate them virtually. Another 2 years and my husband and I have another child. At this time, COVID hits. Everyone is staying away from everyone. I slip into a depression because I'm overworked at my job after just receiving promotion, socialization is zero, and some postpartum. So Cindy and I see each other even less. But still we call a few times a month, celebrate each other's victories, have those moments where we hate on somebody together through the phone. When the pandemic pretty much comes to an end, we start trying to rekindle our face-to-face friendship. My husband worked an odd schedule, so it was difficult to make plans when we had no sitters, but I would occasionally score an evening we could get together. Often Cindy would cancel it last minute, or she would call me, wanting me to do some activity with her that was literally that day or the next day, knowing I had no way to find a sitter in that amount of time. So I would always have to beg off. Cindy was a spontaneous person, while I did not have that luxury. I would need to plan outings in advance. About a year ago, I received a phone call from her stating that she accepted that we were no longer best friends, that we have transitioned to acquaintances. She stated that I was not doing enough to save this friendship. I told her I was sorry, that unfortunately the times I would make plans she would cancel, and the events that she would invite me to I would not have time to get a sitter. She made the claim that she thought she was going to be involved in my second child's life as the crazy aunt, which I was confused about since she wasn't involved in my first child's life due to her inability to PG herself. I let her know I had no control over the pandemic, and my child had not met certain family members due to the situation. A month later she calls me and tells me she's sorry, that she overreacted. She was just upset and feeling left out. I told her I was sorry too, and would try to do better about making plans with her. And I did. I would call in advance, trying to schedule a dinner date or movie night with beers and gossip, but she would always cancel. Not long after that, I received another promotion, which meant workload doubled. I was extremely stressed out and it was causing problems with my marriage, so friendships were even further on the back burner. At this point we were no longer seeing each other at all, but we did still speak once a month. This past summer I tried to call her and received the automated message that her phone number had been disconnected. I was shocked. She would very often change her phone number due to providing it to strange guys in the bar, but would always update me with her new number. This time she didn't. I tried really hard to remember the last conversation she and I had, to try to gauge how long it has been since we spoke. Honestly, with the stress that I was under at work and home, I could not remember. We were still friends on Facebook, but I didn't reach out. I took this to mean that she had finally decided our friendship was over. And at the time I was having some real problems at work and home and just did not have the mental capacity. A few months ago I was finally put out of my misery and terminated from my job that I'd loved for 7 years. I was unbelievably heartbroken, even though I knew it would save my marriage. Of course I could not be sad around my husband because he hated the job and was glad I was no longer stressed out by the place. I really wanted to talk to Cindy because she knew how much I loved that place, how hard I worked, and how I had put that place before myself and my family. And she would have mourned with me, even though it was for the best. But she had changed her number without telling me, so I didn't reach out. This week I received a phone call from an unknown number. Since I've been applying for positions, I thought maybe it was a return call for a job, so I answered. And it was a woman stating Cindy had given her my number, recommending she call me to see if I was hiring at my company. I let her know that I was no longer employed with that company. I could not help her. When I lost my job, I did not post on social media because it was an obvious embarrassment for me, so only my immediate family knows. I'm not sure who the lady was and what her connection is to Cindy. I wondered if I would all of a sudden hear from Cindy, if the woman told her I don't work there anymore. Because obviously Cindy still has my phone number. For a little bit I wondered how I would have react if she called me, and wanted to know what happened. Would I tell her? Would I call her out on the fact she changed her phone number without telling me, only to contact me after a stranger gave her the tea? So while I know that I am the asshole in this story, am I the only asshole in this situation? Or does Cindy deserve a little bit of blame too? Aftermath. A few weeks after the wedding, it was her birthday. I had tried to act normal with her after the wedding, but I'd significantly dropped off from talking to her. I think I had sent a few photos and a one-off text about something else, but we texted, called, and left a happy birthday voicemail after not reaching her. She texted me after we had called to wish her a happy birthday and said, "I've been thinking about things that were said before the wedding, and I need time and space from you. I'll contact you when I'm ready." So it's been 2 months now and crickets. Honestly, I can't even decide if I'm more upset about the fact that she had the audacity to act like the victim all over again, or that she thinks she can string me along like this, and I'll just be waiting patiently to open my arms to her again. She doesn't seem to understand that literally nobody was on her side either. Her best friend came up to us at the wedding and whispered to us that we were so great for being the bigger people and apologized to my mom since she knew she'd never do it even though she was clearly in the wrong. And it was very smart of us to keep the peace to protect our special day. Even her best friend is afraid of her reactions. Some narc backstory. My mom's patterns aren't anything new. Here's just a sampling of what I've dealt with over the years. At 16, I ran away after her ex-husband choked me out after an argument where I tried to leave. She cut off contact with me for over a year because of this. Another time, she stopped speaking to me for a year because her ex decided he didn't like me anymore. As a child, she constantly badmouthed my dad after their divorce. Even though I was only 5, she'd tell me all the horrible things my dad did. I shit you not, telling me stories about my dad 5-year-old should know. She loved the mantra, "The phone works both ways," but only applied it to me, not my brothers. Basically, everything I do is bad, everything they do is good. I hate to make it so black and white, but I've had to deal with this my entire life, and I can't do it anymore.